Okay, in this video I'd like to talk about a political view that I'm finding concerning. There are some channels that I really enjoy watching and appreciate, but I'm seeing some perspectives that are coming out of them that are troubling, like the red elephants and some other people too. I'm going to document them that are popular here on YouTube, and they're not full-blown alt-right, white racist supremacists or anything, but they lean white to white nationalism. And I'm going to document red elephants. Again, I agree with him on a lot of stuff, but on white nationalism, we need to abandon that and push that away. I do believe you should have the right to say it, and I think what's happening to a lot of these people who lean white nationalists is a travesty. They should be able to speak and say what they want to say. I think that's terrible that they would be deplatformed or anything like that. Is just awful. I think that's terrible. So, but I do have a criticism about some of the things I'm seeing on some of these channels, where red elephants talks about the demographic trend in the United States where Hispanics are becoming more and more the majority, and that means the Republicans and the conservatives are going to be doomed. That Texas will go blue, and a lot of states will go blue after Hispanics become the majority. And he points to California and others, and he says demographics is destiny. He's quoting a liberal. I can't remember who the liberal said. I think Kamala Harris said that. But what I want to say is this. That could be true in the short term, but we have to remember in the long term, we can still win. The constitutionalists can still win. What we have to do is reach out to the Hispanics. The United States is not going to remain a European-dominated country for long. I'm in California. It's white people, the European whites. Actually, Hispanics are considered white because of Spain. They're half Spanish. But we need to convince these people that the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the libertarian perspective is for them and will be better for them than the socialist countries they came from. We need to convince them to become Americans and embrace all the freedoms and rights and opportunities that this country has offered throughout the past. So we need to stop lamenting the demographic shift in the United States. It may, for the short term, shift more Democrat, maybe for a decade or two, but I will tell you this. Here in California, a lot of African Americans and Hispanics, they're not going to vote Republican or Libertarian this election cycle, maybe not next, maybe not for a decade, but they are softening up to the Libertarian Constitutionalist perspective. They are beginning to soften. So they're not hardcore Democrats anymore. They're beginning to come over this way. I'm seeing this, especially right now amongst African Americans. It is happening among Hispanics as well. And again, the reason why we make this an issue is because the leftist media does. The way we want to judge people isn't on an individual basis, and each person is their own case, okay? But since the left does this, we need to engage that as well. What we need to say is that as these new people come into the country, no matter what race they are, the Asians, actually Asian men voted for Trump more than Hillary. I think it was 55% to 45% or something like that. So Asian men voted for Trump more, and we can get the others to come over more and more. So we need to stop lamenting the people coming in and embrace them. If we try to keep all these people out just to keep it nice and conservative and all this and white, we'll have a demographic winner. White people are not having kids. Americans in general, not just white people, but Americans in general are not having kids. White nationalism is not the way to go, to lament the immigrants coming in. Now, I am for a border wall, actually, and I am against illegal immigration. I'm against that. And I do think we need to vet everybody that comes in here, because the people that come in illegally, the Hispanics coming in, are getting abused. You know what these people do to them? These sex traffickers and human traffickers do to these people that do not have American citizenship. It is terrible. And then the people, they work out in the fields and stuff for almost nothing because they get paid under the table. They're basically slave labor, and I don't want that to happen to them. I would like them to be American citizens and have all the rights and privileges and protections of being American citizens. So I'm against illegal immigration, and I'm for building a wall or a barrier, whatever Trump wants to do down there, but bringing in, being very generous with our immigration program. Bring in people from those Latin American countries. Let them come in and have them be American citizens, and give them classes when they come in to appreciate the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And that will push some of them at least to be Republicans, or more leaning Republican. And of course, I believe there's major issues in the Republican Party that are bad, but the Democrats are insane. They're crazy. The Democrats are just, they've checked out of hotel reality. They don't live in reality anymore, and they're morally bankrupt and crazy. Okay, the Democrats are crazy. They're 100 times worse than the Republicans or Trump or anything like that. So we need to try to win these people over to constitutionalism, libertarianism, individual rights, the freedoms of the Bill of Rights, the opportunities that they would have under a free market system when they work hard and they try. And as a Christian, I'll tell you this, a lot of Hispanics are becoming evangelical, Bible-believing Christians. And as that happens, I tell you, there is a connection between evangelical Christianity and the way this country is set up. A massive influence on the founding of the country was the Reformed Christian view of human nature, with the checks and balances. Okay, humans are sinful. We need checks and balances. And as these Hispanics come more and more over it, their politics will shift towards libertarian freedoms and the Constitution. The Constitution wasn't just formed out of nothing. Now, the people who founded the country did do a lot of mistakes. They messed up a lot on things. But the system they put in place with the checks and all this and the amendments you could have was a fantastic system to self-correct. And that is what we need to teach these people coming in. And as they embrace evangelical Christianity, they will begin to embrace libertarian principles of freedom and constitutionalism, the U.S. Constitution. They will. It might take a generation or two, but it will happen. We have to be patient and pray and not lament. Because when you lament, you're saying, oh, these, I see you have some Ann Coulter books behind you. I'm talking to the red elephants here. And, that guy with his book, How America Was Sold Out, Pat Buchanan, his book, I see you have him up there, and then the bell curve and all that, okay, here's the thing too. Okay, now you're saying, as this country becomes less and less white, the Democrats are going to win and the country's going to be destroyed, basically, right? That's kind of what you're saying. We need to kind of slow that down or stop it. What about the Northeast? That's as white as it comes. And it's as white as the driven snow up there in the Northeast. They always vote Democrat the past 30 years. Okay? Since Reagan, I think, they voted Democrat. In the Northeast, they're all white. And if you have the bell curve, white people have a higher IQ and all this, and we should not go there, okay? Let's not go there with that, because let's just assume that's true, the bell curve. In the 30s and before the 30s, African Americans always voted for Republicans. And that was the right party to vote for at that time, the Republicans. After the Civil War, the African Americans voted for Republicans. And that was the right party to vote for. The bad party to vote for would have been the Democrats, the pro-slavery, Jim Crow, KKK starting Democrats. the African Americans had the right vote, even though on the bell curve theory they would have had a lower IQ. It doesn't matter, okay? Having your IQ also is not the ultimate determinator of correct moral judgments. I will say that. Okay, so those are my 2 cents with the red elephants. We need to stay away and be careful of it. And I know you wouldn't probably fall completely into this, but we need to be careful of becoming white nationalists. That is not the way to go. That is not the way to go. We need to embrace these immigrants coming in, make them full Americans, try to win them over to the principles of libertarianism and the Constitution and personal freedoms, free market capitalism. That is what we need to do. And we need to preach to them. There's a church that I was involved in a neighboring town here in California. And we started a Hispanic church, that spoke Spanish. And I was in the English church, it was predominantly white people. And when I started there 7 years, and I was the youth pastor, we had 250 people. Now, I was the youth pastor. The youth group grew, but the church didn't because we switched pastors, and so it's hard to grow. So when I left, there's 250 people. We started 250, left 250. The English church, the predominantly white part of the church, didn't grow. The Hispanic church started with 30 people, ended after the 7 years, 300, with a humongous youth group, bigger than mine. I had about 40 kids coming to the English youth group, and I was full-time, although I was an associate pastor helping out with the main church because the situation with the pastor was so in flux. The Hispanic church had like 60 kids, 50, 60 kids, and they worked only part-time. And they would go against abortion in their sermons hard. Actually, a lot of the people who protest the Planned Parenthood, all of them are Hispanic. The majority that I see out there are Hispanic, actually. Not all, but the majority. I do see some white people protesting, but the majority are Hispanic that are protesting abortion, which is great. We need to embrace these people and win them over to the principles of libertarianism. So anyway, and free market capitalism and all that. And they're beginning to see it. They're starting to. They may not vote Democrat this cycle or next, or maybe in 10 years, but eventually, I'm telling you, they will come over and begin to embrace the principles of freedom, liberty, and the Constitution. Okay, God bless.